Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and before we get into today's video, well, I'm just going to remind you the 3 books that are on sale. Drink tea and read the paper. If you're a green belt and a black belt and you want simple instruction on how to apply your skill, design of experiments for 21st century engineers, and finally a statistical process control for small batch production. They are all available from lulu.com and the links are in the video below. Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's video, well, we're going to take a look at these status boards. Very lean, I would suggest, in nature. The idea of being able to walk up and instantaneously see the status of something because of the use of visual management tools. Yeah, so and often what's going on is the idea of colouring something in red or green to indicate its status. Now for me, there are times when this is a great thing to do and the status is instantaneous, and by the way, the response to it should be clear and unambiguous. It should be very easy to know what to do next. But there's times when this red-green status visualization is completely the wrong approach. And here's where I want to start. Because the little example I've put on the board here is when you're doing this for your measures, for your key performance indicators, something where there is data attached to it. Now I've just written up some likely candidates that might be on this board here. OEE, OTIF, on time in full, or your schedule adherence measure, and we've just put it up as, I've just indicated red or green. Of course, alongside these, I suppose, there may be some numbers written in there, so we may see the actual figure written in, and then we've got this red or green status. Now I have to fight constantly with people where they've collected, in some cases, large amounts of data, really valuable data that would help them to understand their process, and then they literally throw away all the value by just looking at a single data point. These measures, because they are measures, because they are on a measurable scale, it's variable data, all of these should be on a graph. Yeah, so what you should be doing here, you know, let's take the OEE as an example. This whole thing should be on a graph, because when you look at the single data point, the graph is telling you something. It's telling you what you need to do next. And this is valuable data. And it literally is free information. You've collected all this data for months and months and months. Avoid this. Avoid the single data point. You know, what does this mean? I mean, if you look at my example here, 65%, you know, if you just look at that figure, you go, well, what does it mean? Well, in this case, look, that's a very low result. How do I know it's a very low result? Well, because I can compare it to the rest of the graph. I can't do that if I don't have the graph in front of me. You know, what would have happened if this was 65%? Suddenly I'd be looking at this and I go, well, that's a fantastic week. What a great week, because we had 65%. But here, look, it's a terrible week. Now, how am I making that judgment? I can only make that judgment by looking at the rest of the data. So the idea of isolating single data points, you're wasting free information. You're wasting free ability to just make more money. Now the other thing about this is that, you know, often there's a there's a specification that you're trying to hit. Let's just drop a spec on this for a second, just to show that. Now, of course, what's going to happen here is this thing's going to go red every time we break this limit that we've put in, and it's some arbitrary limit. Let's say it's 70% OEE that we want to beat. And of course, if we drop below that, then the status is going to go red. But if the status goes red, there's an important question you've got to ask. And again, it needs the graph. When the status goes red, you have to ask the question, am I in chaos or control? Chaos will take 3 months to fix. It needs a team and a project. Control, on the other hand, could take 3 minutes to fix. It's very quick. Usually, one person can sort that out. Now that graph, for instance, is showing me that the process is in chaos. This is going to take 3 months to fix, and I need a team. How can I make that judgment? I'm looking at the graph. What does control look like, on the other hand? Well, control would look like this. Everything was going great, and then suddenly the process did that. So here's the limit. This is a single event. Yeah, this will be very quick to isolate, find out what was wrong, and put the problem right and remove it. So if the graph looks like this, it's going to take you 3 minutes, maybe 3 days, depends what the problem is, but it's going to be very quick, and usually one person can do this. When you're dealing with a noisy process where there's huge amounts of variability, when you've got that chaos, you need a team and you need a project. Now I need to make that decision, but I can't make that decision from this board. You're wasting huge amounts of influential data. Okay, so what would you put on a board and go red and green? Instantaneous status. Well, here's the kinds of things I would put on a board. I would put things like, okay, what's the maintenance status of the machine? So this would be specifically on a particular machine. So I'd walk up to a machine, I would have a status board, and it would be saying, what's the status? Let me get a pen here. What's the status? And if it's saying, well, okay, the status of the maintenance is red, well, there's an obvious reaction. Stop the machine and do whatever maintenance routine you're supposed to do. So there's no problem solving routine, there's nothing extra to be done here. It's literally saying you have a status which is red and it needs to go green. That there is no intermediate value, there's no different values like there is up here. It's either right or it's wrong. What else might you have on here? So you might have, has the maintenance been done? Let's have a think. Have the TPM checks been done? Do you have all your skilled or trained labour in today? Yes or no? Maybe the answer's no there. And again, they're just yes or no statuses. You're either where you should be, as in all your skilled people are in, and therefore everything's right with the world. All your maintenance is being done, therefore everything's right with the world. What else might you have here? You might have our standard settings being used. Yeah, so again, what's the status? Yes or no? And if you think about this, this really is predicting forward. This is looking backwards. You see what this is saying is, let's say you do this status in the first hour, then you walk up to the machine. Well, if you've got some red flags on the status board, we didn't do all the maintenance routines on the weekend, we have some skilled people that are missing today, or we're having to use non-standard settings, that's a red flag. That's saying these numbers are probably not going to look great tomorrow. This is a forward-looking thing, because it's basically saying if you allow this to continue, your performance is going to be shocking. Put it right. And there's no problem solving or analysis to be done necessarily. You're either status green or status red. Status red is not allowed. Status green is where we need to head to. Put it right, and put it right now. And it's telling us forward performance will be terrible if we don't do this. So this is forward looking, this is backward looking. Not only that, this is a waste of great data. You know, we should be looking at graphs. Where it's a measure and we can look at the graph, then do it. Where it's a status and we say, is the status as we intend it to be? Yes or no? That's when you use the visual management. And that allows senior management to walk the floor and to instantaneously see where there is risk for today's production, to put the risk right, and to guarantee today's production, to guarantee these figures are going to be good. And that's where you should use red or green, when the status is just very digital. When it's a measure, then you don't want to say we've broken the target, we haven't broken the target. That's not really a status board, it's not really a red or green board. These techniques, as I say, they're very prominent in lean. They are great techniques because they can guarantee performance. But if you start to do it in the wrong place, you're beginning to ruin great data, and you're beginning to ruin great information, and it'll drive you to take silly decisions as well. Because of course, if you look at this, what happens tomorrow? Well, it goes green, it dropped red, and then it quickly goes green, and then it stays green, and then eventually goes red again, but it quickly goes green again. It doesn't encourage you to actually fix the problem properly because you're not looking at the pattern. Use these status boards correctly. They are brilliant. Guarantee your output. Use your data correctly. They are brilliant. Take long-term process improvements. If you use the two correctly, you'll make pots and pots of money.